Good evening. The attack came early this morning. 3 men calling themselves Armenian revolutionaries stormed the Turkish Embassy in Ottawa. They killed a guard and took a dozen people hostage. 4 hours later, the drama ended when the gunmen surrendered. Our coverage begins with Don Newman.
They came in a rented truck, 3 armed Armenians, vaulting the fence around the Turkish Embassy, shooting their way past the security guard's post, and blowing the front door of the embassy building.
The explosion blew me right out of bed.
There was an explosion first.
Yeah, big explosion, and then after that was machine gun and revolver shots. Pow, 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 like that.
The truck was rented in Montreal by a man who said he was Rafi Titizian, 28 years old, who lives in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough. He was one of 3 men arrested today at the embassy. As police sealed off the area, inside the embassy, the gunmen held a dozen hostages. And while the gunmen wouldn't talk to the police, they would talk to reporters.
Could you tell us what the situation is there right now?
Sorry, I can't tell you that, but as you know, we are the Armenian Revolutionary Army. We had occupied the Turkish Embassy, and we got the demands.
What demands are you making?
To Turkish government demand we want our lands back, and we want the Turkish government to recognize the Armenian genocide in 1915.
Among those being held were the ambassador's wife and daughter. But Ambassador Joshkin Kurja was already outside the embassy. Originally the 13th hostage, he was injured as he tried to jump to freedom.
And he's lying at the side of the embassy now with what is believed a broken leg and possibly a broken arm. He's being attended by a police officer who's beside him.
To coordinate their siege of the embassy, the police set up a command post on the 17th floor of a neighboring high-rise. Then they brought in loud hailers to talk to the Armenians inside the embassy. And while sharpshooters kept their rifles trained on the embassy, negotiations were started to get the Armenians to give up. And then, slightly more than 4 hours after the drama began, it ended. With a hostage walking in front of them, 2 of the gunmen came to the front door of the embassy and threw down their guns. Then, with a policeman at her side, the hostage made a run for safety. While the gunmen, their hands up, were seized by the police, thrown to the ground, and handcuffed.
There was no force used to bring it to them.
They finally agreed to surrender?
They surrendered. They came out on their own.
What finally made them change their minds? And
just negotiations.
Later, police said the gunmen gave up on the strength of a promise they would not be shot when they came out of the embassy. After all 3 gunmen were arrested, the remaining hostages were released. And Ambassador Kurja, suffering from multiple fractures, was transferred to a critical care vehicle to be rushed to hospital. The ambassador has been in Canada for only a short while. But although injured, today he survived the attack. But the 31-year-old security agency employee on duty outside the embassy this morning was killed. Police officers found the handgun of Claude Brunel as his body was removed from the embassy.
Officer Brunel was on duty, and all we know that he was shot in the line of duty.
Tonight, the police continue to search the Turkish embassy for evidence. The 3 men who surrendered this morning are in jail and will probably appear in court tomorrow. Don Newman, CBC News, Ottawa.